this is Nikki with the sauce. So today I would just like to say the day that I get an award in life for being liked is the day I will really care. And I've come to this place in my life, I've matured for this reason. When I was younger, I had such a hard time letting go of caring what other people think or thought of me, to the extent that I allowed people to mold me through what I now know to be manipulation or gaslighting, playing on my fear of being rejected or fear of not being liked. And that's a primal fear of being rejected from the community or socially or social groups. You know what I mean? It's a primal fear within all people usually, because that would mean that a person oftentimes couldn't survive, because people survived in groups. People looked out for each other. So one thing I learned is, when a person wants to come for you and they know you have a good heart, they're going to play on your good heart. They're going to play on the good morals in you. They're going to play on your values. They're going to try to reverse everything and flip everything, so you're running around trying to prove your value and your worth to them. But at the end of the day, they know your value and your worth. They're just provoking you because they're dragging you along into a mind game. So then by the time you realize what's going on, you're already going to be gaslit. Oftentimes you'll have triggers. You'll be triggered by things, or, and you'll basically just make yourself look worse trying to prove something to people that, never had any intention on trying to understand you. They were already intended on misunderstanding you. So it was pointless. It's pointless, And when I was younger, oh my gosh, I thought if I just showed who I was, it would be enough. But sometimes you being you is not enough for the wrong people. Okay, they'll never accept you as you are for being you. Whether you're right or you're wrong, they'll have something to say. If they can't say anything about anything you're doing, they'll try to speculate stuff. They'll try to dig in your past. They'll dig in your childhood. They'll talk about your family and your upbringing or where you came from. They'll basically utilize anything that's accessible to them to demean you and to basically discredit you and make you look bad, because that's the goal anyway. You could never win with such people. So I had to learn how not to care, because when you care too much about what other people think, you only become easily manipulated and manipulatable by those individuals. And a lot of people, just like wolves, will come to do just that, or like wolves in sheep's clothing. Sometimes even when I was going to church and stuff, I had to learn that just because you're amongst people that proclaim to have the same faith as you doesn't mean their heart is the same or in the same place. So you should be wise even when dealing with people in that place and places like that. So yeah, I had to learn the hard way, and then I had to relearn to self-identify, to self-validate. I had to relearn and learn definitions like codependency, gaslighting, narcissistic abuse, cluster B personality, sociopath, psychopath. I basically just educated myself to a little bit. I don't want to say I know everything because I'm still learning, but I educated myself, and it was through me educating myself that I felt empowered. And then it was through also my spiritual journey that I learned more and I grew from it, from studying the Bible, as well as listening to spiritualists who talk about love and, purpose and things like that. And yeah, this is where I actually came across Myra Moss, and I learned about, how within the illusions of things, or the matrix, the matrix is a ma of tricks, the mother of tricks, which is the great illusion. Everything's based upon our perceptions, our feelings, our emotions, and a play on them. So from the news to everything else. So she mentioned how our fears, our doubts, and our guilt are used against us. And oh my gosh, just hearing that was so liberating for me, because I realized that everything that had me distracted at one point in my life, whether people or situations that had me forgetting who I was or trying to figure out things, it was always based upon fears, doubts, or guilt. You know what I mean? Fear of rejection. Fear provoking in me a fear of missing out or not receiving something I want. Trying to play on my desires, heart and minds. You know what I mean? Playing on desires and things like that. Doubts, playing on my uncertainties, or gaslighting is the same as doubts. intentionally misinforming me in order to manipulate me through misinformation, which confuses you, and naturally your mind is going to want to try to figure out things to understand because you have the conflicting information, which can cause cognitive dissonance and this and that. But every time you think you're going to learn something, you're only being misdirected or misguided, because this is how a manipulative person accesses you. Through gaslighting, through your doubts, through your uncertainties, through your fears. They'll play on your hopes. They'll find ways to play on the things you love. They'll find ways to play on the things that you hate. They'll find ways to just basically play on anything that can get into your psyche, to play on your feelings, your emotions, and your thought life. They'll project. You know what I mean? There's all types of little silly games that sadly a lot of people will strategically implement and place in your life, coercively, to manipulate, to distort, to distract, to confuse, to play on. And then by the time you realize that you've given over this much power to people, because then you have to come to a place of realizing, yes, there are people that are this unhealthy and toxic that will do these, that have enough time and capacity within their sad little hearts and lack of spiritual growth to do such things. You realize that you know, along the way, you can lose yourself. You know what I mean? So if you're out there and you're going through that, I understand and I feel for you. You know, to some extent, we've all, I'm sure, have a story where we can apply something or another to our experiences, whether we've learned from them, we've grown past them, or we're still going through them. Like, we're all at different levels on the journey. But the greatest thing we can do is, of course, show love and kindness toward others, each other, to not make it harder for anyone, because you never know what someone's going through, and you don't know where somebody's at on a breaking point. There are many people that have, lost their fight to stress and bullying and things like that. And just know all these things are low vibrational, what they call demonic or parasitic energy and tactics, but I myself have actually dealt with people on these type of frequencies. But I got to a place where I start to learn how to recognize that, and I learned to see things as they were for what they were, so that I took my power back, because I was like, okay, I see that all of this is just a play on drawing me back in to entangle me on some level into playing these games, and I'm not interested in playing those games, because silly games get silly prizes. You know what I mean? So that's where I had to get to in my life, where I had to learn how to walk away from things, jobs, people, and things like that, because I no longer wanted to be drugged into entertaining any toxic, unhealthy, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, psychologically, socially unhealthy people and behaviors. I was like, no, I'm going to put up boundaries. And even if these people or this person or this situation, my boundaries get mowed over, I'm still going to keep putting up and standing for my boundaries. And then I had to learn this as well, not to live out of my emotions and my feelings, because the greatest weapon that was being used against me were my feelings and my emotions, which affected my thought life. And what affects your thoughts becomes what distracts you, becomes what guides your life, and basically can affect your choices in your life and the direction your life goes. So I had to take back my power over myself, because I recognized that my power was being solicited through manipulative means and distributed in areas where I otherwise was not intentionally, willfully distributing them. My power, my power is my self-control, you know what I mean? So likewise, if you find yourself dealing with that same type of situation on whatever level, do the research, do the work, learn to recognize where your energy is being pulled from you, whether it's your heartstrings, hearts and minds, fears, doubts, guilts, or a mixture of all of them, and the tactics. And when you're going through it, just learn to not allow the projections to be internalized. Yes, you're going to feel some type of way, because a lot of times you've been conditioned to feel some type of way, but just try to remember, you know what I mean? That's exactly, and that's all that it is. It's not you, it's a situation, okay? And sadly, although we know God doesn't like ugly, God doesn't like people like that, we are instructed to be strong. And one thing I learned, for some reason, the fruit of the Spirit is cultivated when you go through hard times for some reason. So may God, cultivate within you the fruit of the Spirit, and may the fruit of His Spirit carry you, which is all the higher vibrational traits and things like that, so that eventually you attract better. May you, get in a better situation where you're protected, you learn boundaries, and you have a safer space to get away from toxic people or work environments and stuff. And may you learn to love yourself enough to heal past any traumas and stuff, so that it's not controlling your life, or it's not being used as an access point by, low vibrational, parasitic, spiritually dead, egotistic, lost, sad, confused, depressed, and everything else individuals who are just looking for energy to steal. They're energy vampires. And if you're depressed, I'm not trying to be mean, but what I mean is anyone who plays with people's lives or does little manipulative stuff like that, I would assume surely can't be happy within their own inner self. Those are usually people that got a lot going on, but may they even find ways to heal. And one day when they do, sadly for them, how they've treated others, I'm sure they're going to have a time where they come to a place, some, not all, where, all that shit comes back on their heart, and they're going to have to reap that karmic, or whatever you call it, energy, internally or externally, that they've put into play into other people's lives, because it's going to come back around full circle. But never wait upon that. Never look back to see what's going on in people's lives. When they're behind you, they're behind you. So just figure out ways how to progress and stay strong, and to shake it off your feet. Shake the dust off your feet. All right. This is Nikki with the sauce. Everybody take care. Be well. Get the help you need if you need help. And yeah, find a friend who really cares. All right. Peace.